fantastic what we're coming to. Absolutely incredible. Live. It was great. We picked up a lot, and you guys are starting to connect. You're starting to listen. You're starting to pay attention because what are we coming into? Telepathy. That's what keeps us separated because we don't connect to anything. What are we saying? Sorry, I'm too busy. I don't know what you're saying. What do you want to say? You're not listening. So this is the process where you get in communication and sending the travels where you start recognizing things. Yep, I got it. Went through telepathy. Went to another in the mind. It's the conception we're all coming back to, guys. How to use it through its telekinesis. Okay, how to travel to one point line center to position locations and position in the equal line correlates sitting in track lines and position lines of center. When Einstein wanted to come into relativity, it was the process case that he didn't understand his theory. All right, and now it's all track location provision lines of distraction. The track to position to calculate line interference, there's no separation in between. There's never been any separation. And that's why you guys are separated from each other, because you're not in adaptation of the mind at balance. And what you're saying, the balance of the mind is there's no separation in any way and form how you see yourself and how you communicate with each other through data or anything that information settings, interpretations. Yes, I got it. Thank you. Right? You got to hear. You got to hear. You got to hear. You got to hear. And you got to hear. Your body vibrates. It picks up vibration frequencies and its harmonics all through communications. Right? So there's no waiting signal in any way and form. Right? See, you guys are not programmed that way. So you got to reprogram your line settings, recycle the line condition setting, do a psychological communication system, set as high calculation setting, and travel. Put yourself back in provision line to its calculation of communications. Then you're then, yes, I got it. Right? All through the mind, all through process, all through data. Okay? Now, in line communication, teams come into downgrading. It's very powerful stuff, how we come into doppelgangers. Correlating lines attract lines of high interference. Team line sequence and high calculation setting is going to be a 3,000 line error. They got to get in provision lines cycles because they have huge lines of emission coming up in tractions, especially when they come into their 24 lines of waves and volunteers and track communications. Summoning line rotations and cycles, calculation, high calculation position programs of data formation screen lines, calculated modified in 72 million frames per line per frame per square. The correlation line track lines are off positions calculations, so we have to revamp, recalculate, remodify, put up a line, electrical line communications setting to calculate high positions. This allocates position of time frames, location of plasma potentials, communications. Higher levels of geometrics in line continuity setting into your graphification and mapping sequence. So it's very powerful. We're all coming to. Species has to get identifications of line conditions. Process communication, telepathy, telekinesis. So understand the balance of communication comes in their line of rotations. We're all calculated modified in a 2075 line air, 25 line in habitation zones of data imprints and location setting, in transit locations of data divots, setting correlation lines of calculation of data formation of screen location and high calculations. Getting into that position line centers and really understand your habitation zone, 2075. To get into that through attraction, how things start coming to you through a cycle. Right? So the more you listen, okay, the more you listen, your body is a vibration. It is a frequency and is communicating back with you. Everything is at a different frequency, different tone. It's going so fast in the mind, and the mind does not have time to slow down. Okay, so you have to learn how to adjust your volume. It's like when you're in a car and you're in the third in set locations, and then you drop down to 2, and then you drop down to 1, right? Or you're in a standard H, right? So you're obviously going to be at that intersection. You're obviously going to stop your car, and then you start again in the first and second and third gear, right? Well, there's no difference when you're in the mind. The process is quantum. The process is calculation. The process is its navigation of its console. And a 3-track vision. And a 2-line calculations. And 1 sector. And 3 calculation. Directing lines of modification is understanding how to use the models of modifications, especially when you come into your teleportation units. Okay? Welcome, everybody. Generally out here, helping you guys in all formation line condition setting, trying to get the team ready into their Army highways. Process correlation lines, attraction, high provisions. Center core lines of units. All right, so more lines of the mind line, acceptance, and communication setting. Accept who you are and accept who you aren't. Pattern line rotation cycle, right? Platforms in a 4-line rotation. Okay, travel lines of 1, 2, 3, and 4 set locations, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 lines and 5 location setting, right? Setting correlation lines, highest interference of 0, and set location of line conditions of 0, and track locations. Modification lines of center. You're always going to have your flywheel. It's always in the center. You're always in the center operation of you. This is what never, never leaves, team. You're always in the center, okay? The mind is shifting everywhere, going from here, and going from here. It's locations. Now, when you're in lines of travel, first thing you go through is dimensional lines of pi, multiple levels of you, okay? The team has to get into doppelgangers and line condition setting into multiple line division locations, sectors, vectors, and quads. Know exactly when you go through that dimensional door pi, you're going through positive, negative. They're going in the same tractions, but different locations. Different locations, but you're always in the center operation. And the more you stay in the center, the more you expand in set location. You expand. You outspan and inspan. Inner space, outer space. Inner realm, outer norm. Inner orbit, outer orbit. Okay, your track division line cycles, your truth narratives, and your false narratives comes one cycle. There's no positive and negative in anything. So getting the team out of time is timeless. To get them out of form is formless. To get them out of shape is shapeless. And get them out of space is spaceless. And get them out of time in set location. All calculated modified through clockings. Right? It's getting you guys out of structure of design. All through modification of expansion. Expansion. Okay? Okay, so in that coordinates lines of pi, we generate the screen lines of high interference. One line signal, position lines of centers, we graph communication lines and box lines. Box communication is a 2-atom line rotation surface. Position lines of triangulation line conditions setting the coordinates. Right? Coordinates lines of cycles in set position calculation. Right? Getting lines of center line and communication all levels of program high calculation setting. Travel rotations, center correlation lines of track, circulation, rotation, circles. Modification lines of triangulation, Merkabah test rectangle region. Okay, center core line centers, and set locations. You guys are creating line communications of machine operations now. You're out of holograms in set location. Yeah, that's you on all calculations. Energy grids in set position. Okay, traveling through line settings in a 45-degree line. Correlate those 3 lines of splits and travel position point lines of tractions out through the equation. Travel to another dimension lines of space and correlation lines of tractions in cerebro. Okay? So you guys have to understand you're always in the center. Always in the center. The only thing that shifts is the mind. The mind is the face recognition that's always in the center. See? That's you and that's you in the mind. That's the mind, that's you. That's where you are. But that's the mind of where you are. You understand? The mind's already there. The mind's always in center. You're always in center. Okay? So you don't leave. It's the mind that shifts. It's reality. Okay? And that's how you guys are all timelines all at once. General's here, but everywhere. All at once. But my face is the mind itself. All levels of face recognition. Back and traction, all line connections. Okay? And set design. Okay, team? Positions of track lines into 2000 line screen line interference is 7 line rotations of 5 generation screens. 2075, okay? 2 lines of track, 0 operation lines, 7 lines of theta, and 5 position of travel. 4 track divisions. Cross line connections and set calculations. Data streams, correlation lines of track lines, 0 line rotation cycles. You guys have a test tomorrow on crop circle set location. You got to generate the lines of high interference or algorithms in set location of transiting and resisting and calculations of binaries in longitude and latitude and cross line connections of box line frames and travel communication. Getting the lines of center is all about understanding how to formulate communication centers set locations. Direct lines modifications of platforms, 4 line provision, 5 set location of cycles, calculation of line connection settings in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 provisions of dimensional scales and dimensional line connections of dimensional doors and set location. Okay? Okay, higher levels of technology and geographical maps and line signals, the modification of screen lines, and high calculation. Okay, more information lines, your formulas, equations are going to get a lot more complicated, but I want you to understand this is the mind that's always in the center. The only thing that leaves is the mind itself, which is already in the center. So what's happening to you? You stay in the center. Okay? You stay in the center. The mind goes everywhere. So wherever the mind goes, it shifts everywhere in that set of locations, and the body picks it up through frequency, through telepathy and telekinesis. Okay? So the body shifts its alignments to its capacity of its volume, of its mass, of its equation. Okay? All right. Getting lines of screens is really just in how allocate position and time frame. Point lines of attractions, center communication lines of center, operation lines of surface, and the three-track position. Now the position line centers in a three-line connection. Okay? Set lines of correlation lines of one center and line rotation surface and track location. Okay? Position lines of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 set locations. Okay? Identify communication lines of intelligence information. Intelligence. Everything is a formation of intelligence. The intelligence is the mind that's already in its foundation of all communication of face recognitions. That's why you guys see so many faces everywhere and lights, shades, and shadows. You're going to be coming into the faces of you now through your technology, through your design of machine operation, of face calculation. Okay? So understand position of travel lines, point lines of graphs, line rotation cycles of generation. You come into all communication lines back in fruition of lights and travel. Okay? All right. Now, getting a line calculation setting, we set up data cores, box line rotations, data forms, zeros and correlation lines of attractions, and 3 lines of 6, 6 lines of 7, and 9 line settings, and 2 track and 3 line provision. Oh, okay, very complicated, right? Setting lines of calculation, MXT1000 calculation comes in, right? Scans position of 1, 2, and 3 set location. Calculation of 1, 2, and 3 set location. Okay? It doesn't need to pick up these in position location because it's already calculation of its telepathy wave lines. Picks up another UFO line rotations, picks it up the track lines in position line centers, into 3 lines in calculation in position of 4, 5, and 6 location. Okay? So data lines of shipments is understand the formation lines of data, processes communication, right? Puts lines at angle points, laser track line condition with settings on point lines of traction. Directs modification lines of center lines, crop circle line, design line interference, and a holographic structure in line communication setting and travel position to its operation surface and track location. Complicated, right? All through ground lines. So this is where the crop circle created in a line center conditions of 3, 6, and 9 in a 3 triangulation line split through an XT1000 and an XT2800 line rotation. Track position line cycles is all about understanding how the mechanism line screen sets lines of 3 platforms of communication. Direct modification lines of a 2-track, 3 lines, and a 4-track division. According to the track lines, center lines is communications back and line screen location. Allocates position timelines, center lines are center line communication setting, and flywheel communication. Very powerful, all through crop circle. All right. So your test is based on code weaving, mixture patterns, and chemistry. If you ever took that in cell location. Triangulate the spot lines, high center interference. XT1000 picks up platforms, scans lines, screen lines, center communications, picks up, picks it up, right? Sets correlation, sets a copy and paste. So on the ground line, correlates the track lines and code weaving, sets communication lines of barometer, thermometer, temperature reading, correlates line track lines, allocates specific time frames, elixir, cosmic flame, cosmic fire, serpent flame, serpent fire, line rotates the cycles, correlates the track lines, data formation, interference, sets lines of calculation, 9 position locations, binary reset locations, retract position location, and 6 line centers, allocate position of 3 triangulation line position of point centers, attract position location settings back to its moon, and tropic calculations. Hooah! Okay, very, very complicated stuff through crop circle. Okay, team? So you have to really understand how to structure divisionalize your binaries and put containment centers line condition to your carts and set calculation to screens and set position operation. all downstream modification. Okay? All right. All right, so let's get in platforms. Okay? Yeah, so in position now, downgrading is the position line center. Okay, this is all coming into your past, your position, your present, and your future. Okay, 3,000 line signatures and screen lines of high interference and set location. Right, point lines attractions. This is you in 3,000. Okay, this is you in past location. All right, and this is you in present location that's going to expand and center operation. Okay, so you stay here. You don't go here, you don't go here. You stay here, stay here, stay here, stay here. That's all you do. You stay here. So everything from here. Okay, so in position, you're here now. You're not here anymore. Species are here. Okay, team is here now. Species, team. You understand that? Species, team. All right, so you're moving closer. You're moving closer now, right? So you're reeling things in faster and faster and faster and faster. Okay, so when you're reeling in faster, okay, everything in center gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger at set locations, right? So this gets bigger, this gets smaller. When that gets smaller, this comes into center calculation position and all calculation modification and all line high interference, a space modulation center of all operation. Hooah! Okay? There's so many ways of looking at this, of what's going on and in position to your location centers, all through traction, through your past, through your present, and through your future, right? So you have to really understand how to coordinate communication line screen now, because your high calculation setting is 144 stargates. Correlating is a high standard line interference, CPUs, line connection machines, memory, and locations of remembering who you are and track location line provisions, hire yourself, avatar, and sim set locations. All right, track provision lines of cycles. But I really want you to understand what crop cycles do in set location. Okay, through data line rotation cycles in an X8000 platform. Containments over pi, dockets on the docket, travel line rotation cycles, line setting, zero correlation, track provision, center calculations. Now, your position of past, present, and future, triangulate line centers and data for positional form lines 24, 24, 24, and 24, northwest, south, and east in set locations, right? So the clock line centers, height line and rotations, change position travel lines, 25 line center, calculation modification lines, setting correlation lines of 30, sets the line communication of 40, sets communication lines of 50, sets communication of 60, sets location of 70, sets location of 80, sets location of 90, and sets location of 100 in calculation setting and clocking. Right? So the Omni Highway correlation setting and track lines in the team now is no longer in a 24 balance line rotation cycle. Your correlation line track line is your Omni Highway, which more aligns its communications to your energetic line communications between lines in high calculating line setting, your Skynets, reaching higher levels of set locations. You are no longer in the pass line, you're in the center operation, growing in center position and calculations. Changing track lines, high center interference, center position locations. This merges in calculation lines and calculation and traction, all through adaptation. Okay? All right. So once you get in that provision lines of cycles, everything gets a lot more easier into attraction. Things come faster to you, right? So the center operation of you, okay, in position locations. Acceleration changes line settings in high positions, right? 4 tractions, 5, 6, and 7 line connections. Okay? Sets core lines, track provisional 1 line cycle, and 1 line, 3 line cycle. Modification lines of center, allocates position of time frames and position. Timeline center lines its core system, allocates line connection and acceleration line connections oscillations. That's an oscillation path in a platform line in a Z-line rotation surface and a 4-track provisions and allocated timelines and dimensional lines of scales and next to high interference in all communication setting of dimensional line screens in all position locations of gateway interference. You see how complicated it is getting? So you have a track division going through this door, this door, this door all at once. You guys will not be going line centers at one doors anymore. You'll be going through 3 doors at once in one signal. That puts you in the center correlation line tractions, in a line connection setting, in all levels of operation system, and macro line communications in high calculation setting, and future adaptation cycles of face recognition. Okay, all right. Track division lines, spacing lines goes to one-dimensional door. The team's going to go through 3-dimensional doors now. Okay. Track location of 1, 2, and 3 settings. Okay. One-dimensional and a 45-degree angle. Species, team. Okay. You see how this changed now? See the metric meters? Mocking lines of centers, mocking lines of division, mocking lines of balance. Okay. Mocking lines at line centers of 0.1 attractions equals lines correlations of 2 operation cycles. Track division lines at 3 line centers, set position 1 line set location. Okay? So you have to treat these standard transits now in all levels of all calculation, your divots and set position calculations. Standard line communication of transits and line communication line position location have all calculation. Right? Standard line positions. The species has to walk the surface of platforms now in set locations. The team has to go through line communications and line condition settings in different angles in all communication of both ways in formation settings. Okay? Species, team. Species, team. You see the difference in walkway surface? The correlating line calculation setting, putting lines at aisle line center interference at 24, 48, 72 computer framing, set calculations at 144 grid. Your track lines at highest interference is 150,000 line screen. Spacing lines is 150 frequency line screen. That's the different location of platform communication lines and communication operator location of platforms. Directing modification line cycles, high generation screen locations in your position locations of 3-dimensional doors in 1 cycle in 1 location. Okay? To past, present, and future. All right? 3-dimensional line screens. Now, the screen lines and high interference puts all communication lines to screen location to its adaptation cycles. Generates the lines in the cerebral, center core line calculation setting, braining and sphere line interference, cloud generation line high interference, high position and track communication setting, data line rotation surface, and track divisions calculation. Modification clouds, metric meters, metric scales, metric balance, and line condition setting and calculation. Right? Formation screen line, direct lines of face recognition, time sequence times pi. You got it? All right. Center core lines attractions in center positions calculations. See the data ops line, center line interference, infinity line rotation cycles, generates communication line interference, location of flywheel, direct location of flowers, light formation line condition in high settings, puts track line size center interference in trees of life, information screen line, direct locations of panels, branches communication line screens, high interference, and OMI highways and track communications of program communication setting of travel. Done by equation. All right. Okay, so we really have to get into this tractions now. Okay, this is the team line. This is the spacing line. So they stay on a 45 line, correlation line, track lines, high interference. Now position lines of highest interference. The team is going in position right over left now. So they can set platforms on both line angles, but they also can set platforms on downline. This is downgrading. You're downgrading platforms. Okay, you're downshifting platforms and communication settings, all right? So that's what downgrading is. Upgrading is uplifting. Downgrading is downgrading, okay? So this processes you when you understanding the lifting communication of levitation ground line that operates the cycle line communication setting and position of programs of 150,000 program line connections in set locations of 3,000 line connection. And habitation line communication. Track position location settings. All right, 5 provision line cycles, directing lines, modification line, interference of data communications, and downgradings. Downgradings, upgradings, upgradings, downgradings. You understand now? All right, good. So the team has to really get in provision lines of cycles and how to generate this communication lines of travels and teleportation screens. Vessels and correlations lines of traction. Okay? All right, so once you get in the platform, you come into line communication, your settings. Okay. All right. Now this gets interesting too, because all calculation line conditions of your pass is going to leave the center correlation, right? So get a position of flywheel, line signal to center correlation of lines attractions, expands at center lines and high calculation setting of face recognition. Okay? You come one cycle division. Okay? You get out of the past, you get out of the present, you get out of the future. So you got 3 door centers now. You're now in downgrading. Congratulations, team. Right? So the process lines, the 4-line track lines, that data line rotation service is a star screen. 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, and 5 line rotation. Star systems, latitudes 1, 2, 3 line triangulation line rotation surface, triangulation position point centers. Calculation modifications and data formation lines at theta in communication surface and travel. Position lines of high interference at 2 data line rotation surface and theta communications at 2 waving line cycles its application. Downshift line crosses line screens, crop circle line division line interference, platoons on cross line signals. That's where the team is. Cross line signals and downgradings and up platforms, uplifting, downloading, upgrading, and uploading settings and travel. Okay? Okay, so when you understand the calculation line connections, spacing lines, high interference, 4 coordinate line communication line settings in north, east, west, and south. Okay? Now, the team is now line centers and line condition setting and travel. 4 communication lines of 12. I9 sets calculation split lines surface locations. That is calculation of species. Track planning high calculation clock line rotations in the 24 clock lines of high interference, 1 line cycles, positive over negative, 25 line position of travel and set location. Direct modification line calculation setting as a 4-line cycle. Track location line conditions into 144 line position of 2 tractions, 2 line settings, 2 line rotations, 2 force line communications, panel correlation lines of Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto, and line condition Mercury, and a 4-track vision of theta correlation line traction of provision. All right, so tracking line centers is understanding the clock locations. Direct lines calculations, all right? Team line setting, downgrading, 3 lines of windows. Okay, congratulations, team. So you got 3 door handles going through 3-dimensional doors. Track divisions of 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location. Track calculation cross line screen, high position operation. 3 line signals, calculation modify, 1 line cycle, center correlation lines of tractions, center line rotation interference, crop circle line calculations, center ground lines of high center interference of travel. Point lines of tractions, high calculation line screens. Sets lines of communication of cloud line. Allocates position time frames into cerebral cortex line division as allocations. Okay? All right. So high surface line screens, direct modification lines of downgrading. So you understand the line communication. The team now, okay, is non-connection settings of 24 lines of pi. 4 equals lines of 24, 24 lines of height, locations of 48, 72 in position 144. Sets correlation equal line calculation of 150,000 line screen. 3 zeros in tractions. Sets lines equal lines of 2075. Earth habitation. Correlating line calculation setting. Compute line interference. Compute line interference. Memory line rotations. Memory correlation lines of traction. Memory line interference and crop circle location line settings. Memory and line first surface and child positions which allocate position time frames and correlation line connection settings and tunnels. A defense line screen lines. High adaptation surface. And a panel correlation lines of clocking and a 4-line rotation cycles and generation screens of high adaptation. Complicated stuff, eh, guys? The metric scheme, the scales, like the line communication line interference, light force triangulation line position programs is now allocated position of 3,000 line waves. The force line panel, see the panel communication right there in the center? If you open up the cycles of a high calculation position, you see a waving line cycle come in generation screen lines, adaptation surface, the sets of data formation line condition setting, and position locations of downgrading, line rotation surface, and a 4 platform communication line connections of northeast, northwest, north-south. Okay, so the team is no longer in position location northeast, west, and south. You're northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, south-north, northwest, east-west, south-north, east line. So, understanding that is understanding your walking communication screen lines, adaptation line, high positions, calculating line conditions, any downgrading location setting your platforms now. Okay, you're in a 4 waving line cycle and it calculates the setting 150,000 line screen. The 150 line screen has a 3-line provision. You could box location centers and travel. Okay, set line calculation now. In line calculation setting, in track applications, and position calculation system. Once you guys get into 3,000 line setting, Okay, this opens up all new cycles and generation. New lines of new past, new lines of new present, and new lines of new future. Whoa. What does that mean? Well, the center correlating line calculates and expands the center line, opens all the track position line connection system, puts line communication travel lines into 3-line sectors. A pi generates the 4-line screen line high interference in your downgradings, and pi generation screen lines, high adaptation surface, and triangulation reposition of programs, and center correlation line connection to its position. It's complicated stuff, guys, if you really understand what's going on in line communication setting of travels. Putting you guys in your doppelgangers, 3 lines of cycles, past, present, and future. Timeline sequence in a 3-line measure, 3-dimensional doors, 4-track line provision line calculated setting. You calculate a new tesseract, new tetrahedron, line condition, new Merkaba, new tesseract, and new tetrahedron in its application. Okay? That's what the team is coming into. New models of modification. Higher levels of technology in all lines of formation. Okay, all through traction and provision lines of cycles and generation. So, just try to get in that provision lines of cycles, all through calculation of hologram line condition your settings, right? So, spacing lines and line conditions holograms, structure line, division line, screen lines, position location of team line is in machine operations applications. Higher levels of channels, understand your binaries and transit locations. So, truth narratives, point lines, attractions. 3 provision line cycles, false, 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 equals lines. Position lines, center correlation lines, a high interference. Moon tracking lines, that's false, equals lines, line condition of truth. And set locations, right? 3 false, line equals lines of false truth, right? Moon line, high interference. Sun rotation line cycles, 1 generation screen, adaptation line surface. Pendle correlation line condition setting, new line rotations, new correlations, new balance position of futures calculation. Okay? Track provision lines of platforms has a 4-line cycle, okay? 4 communication of platforms, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Dimensional doors, scales, calculation line, condition setting, and all of us a mystical cortex is the design line. Correlate the track lines in the provision line cycles in a downshift cross line, screen line conditions of habitation zones, calculation line setting, high calculation, high position of programs, and all lines of high rotation system of neutral zone in set location. All done through traction. Okay, all through modifications. Everything I do is structured design, guys, of teleportation screens. I know exactly what we're going through false narratives and truth location setting. Line communicating is understanding the moon. It shifts lines cross line calculation setting. Now, position of track line. This gets interesting. Pay attention. When you guys went into the line settings and set location, right? You saw that divot here in set location. Your eclipse. What was going on? Oh, all right. I'll tell you. Your clip line, screen line, high interference has a line communication screen. It allocates time frames, sets communication line centers, and all line rotation surface and track location to measure and scale position of balance. The light signals are coming into the sun, rotates the line communication to the moon, sets lines of Jupiter, sets lines of Mercury, sets lines of Pluto, it sets lines of all communication setting, and calculates through the system. 3 triangulation line connections, star grid, star panels, mapping sequence, mappings, pi, triangulation line position programs. Now, direct calculation lines of center, correlation, setting, track line position locations, and setting position with calculation. Platforms of communication line at a 45-degree angle. That's where species are coming in, track location, and 1-dimensional door and set locations. That's what was going on, okay, with your eclipse. So you saw the calculation of the moon crossing the sun, but what you didn't see is another line calculating setting, track line division. Remember I told you about the 18,000 line cycles and high interference of the sun, the rotation cycle puts you in a TV world communication line, the platforms. The correlation line, track line is the platform communication. Very complicated stuff. Very complicated stuff. Okay? So the position line connection, knowing exactly what's going on for vision location, is your energy grids and your location centers and all what you're doing in line rotation cycles of remembering who you are and track vision line communications of face recognition. Hoo-wah. Very, very, very complicated. What was going on with the eclipse? Okay, now you know. All right, understanding your platforms and settings and calculations, screen lines, adaptation of surface. Yes. All right, so we equation line screen, quasar line rotation, center line interference, 3 track location lines, 3 bracket communication surface, 3 angle point lines of 0 correlation. All right, Understanding point lines of traction of travel. Sending communication lines of center position. Correlate the track lines of provision lines of cycles communication. For triangulate and line condition of center lines and the crop circle line condition co-weaving and mixture patterns. Sending communications and cross-line signals. Measure and line setting high interference and travel calculation. Crop circle. Right? Laser tractions, 1 line, 2 line, and 3 line communication. Triangulation lines, splits, lines communication. Now, once you get into that, it allocates position of a structure in a 3-line position. Congratulations, hologram setting. Okay, all through 3 lines of cycles, 3 circles, bracket interference, 1 hanger, and 1 0-line rotation. Crop circle through design, an instruction line, and a machine operation screen, and direct signals, all line of communication of morphing line and screen line calculation. Very complicated stuff. It's all done through crop circles. That's that design. Okay? All right. Boom. All right. Track provision lines of cycles. Now, the argon lines, your binaries lines, are going to go through machine operation. Machine lines, Autobots, more than meets the eye. So we're in Autobots now. You guys are machine operated, so you're Autobots, right? Decepticons. All right, so machine screen lines, high standard interference, adaptation lines of cycles, generates the screen location setting, your plasma generates location settings of travels. Puts all lines of all communication setting and all lines of high standard interference in track location and provision. Okay? All right, so in that position lines of platforms, once you understand your position locations, when it comes into calculations, you have a 4-way split. Okay, calculation line. Spacing line has a 2 T-line split. You guys are in X-line rotation, they're in a T-line setting. Okay? T-line rotations, set location of 2075, track location Earth. Transits, allocate time screens, high interference, 1 signal line communication operation, surface attraction. Direct modification line sending high interference. Your guys are line rotating in a 4-line cross in position of platforms and the 4-line signals and a 3-set location. Triangulation lines are point lines of travels, point lines of setting, 3-line calculation, and 3-line of measure, and 1 center. Travel calculation line point lines of traction, high center interference, and platitude line screens in positional platforms, and center correlation of tracks in line condition setting and program set location. Very complicated stuff, isn't it? Understand the transits. See, that's why we get some confused, because we're always trying to find planets. You can't find planets from outside. You have to understand the data transits. You have to understand the divots. It's all position of travel, all right? All through platforms. And that's all it is. You're creating platforms to get in position to the next direction of its next dimension, of its next space, of its next time. But you have to understand the walking surface. It's no difference when you're going through the frost bridge. How do you think that's set up? It's set up from a bridge, right? So that's how it works. You come into your transits and set locations, all levels of your mapping sequence. It's very powerful when you understand transaction of transitions, of transformation. Okay? Transits, your Earth habitation zones. Okay? All right. Complicated, right? All right, so that's the whole idea with your DNA. I9, 12. I9, 24. DNA. That's where everybody is right now. But you have to understand your platforms and how this all works in traffic communication and point lines of grass. So you understand communication lines of setting and all calculation of crop circle location and design. All through point graph communication of setting and travels. All through set location. All through division. All right. Landing smoothly, transformation back, and the avatar running slowly, doing, yeah. Well, you just understand the Autobot location setting because you're in quantum bits now. Understand the quasar line screens, the connections to your micro valves, your communication lines, your microchips, connection to your quasar interference, trackification, provision line cycles, direct and calculus line connections. So the team is coming to higher levels of communication of plasma, energetic high calculations, coming in electrical grids. They're coming to energetic domes. They're coming to higher formations. They're coming to higher formation for screen lines. They're coming in line communication of thought, position patterns. They come into machine operations through thought recognition, all through communications of platform calculation. Okay? Get a platform communication, you have intelligence. Walking lines, the ground setting location of its operation surface and track location. Hoo-ah! Oh, let's downshift. Now I'm here. Remember, it's a game, right? It's all a game. It's all it is. From here to here. Cuber. Right? That's all it is. You ever play Cuber? Right? That's all it is. Computer operating. All right. Okay, so once we symbolize the lines of platforms, every computer line screen into virtual allocation, simulation, and singularities, everything comes in platforms of transitions. This is the transition. Okay, that's what everybody wants to understand. Well, you have to understand the platforms, how to travel through it, and also allocations. 1, 2, 3, 4, woo! Right? So you got position of the avatar. Okay, so you have to understand, there's a reason why you guys travel in a plane. There's a reason why you have cars and buses and any calculation of the line system. But the avatar needs to understand its walking surface first. It needs to go on a floor. Then it can position, then it can fly, right? So it's no difference in any location system and set locations. Okay, best of both. All right. All right, so it's understand its location grid and its directions of where it's going. All through set calculations. All right? String theory. Woohoo! Everything's connected to everything, and everything's connected to everything. All right, so once you get those platforms set up and travel lines, the transitions change position of programs. Allocates time frames. Smaller and bigger. Comes in communication. Different line settings. Now, this is how your clouds are set up. Your cloud communication, cloud line center high interference, right? That's how you see line communication clouds. Then you see divots, you see process, structure lines like Legend of Zelda, door lines, screen lines, high center locations. This is what your clouds look like in a transit line screw locations, in high specifications and setting, into X-ray communications. Translucent, transactions, calculation, screen location setting. That's a cloud. That's it up close, right? So each line calculation, XT1001, XT1002, XT1003, XT1004, platitude 1, platitude 2, platitude 3, platitude 4. Landing on communication setting and process. Okay? So it has a cloud opening, but that's what it is in locations, right? That's how it's all set up, right? Through a cloud, right? That's a transit. So we use transit on platforms of communication lines and computer lines and relays. The correlation lines of track line opens up all signals on all lines of all communication, especially when you understand calculation and settings through upgrades and your downloads, your uplinkings, okay, and your uploadings, okay, and all position of downgrading line connection. So it's understanding going up is going down, going across is going center is going around in set location, right? That's the team right now, right? So you added the 45-degree angle. Your position is this now in calculation and setting. Okay? So you have to send the 4-way line screens, travel lines, the highest interference, and a Stargate line position of mapping sequence, and all set design. Okay? That's the expansion you're coming into. So you never ever team leave the center of operation. Okay? See it? Look at it. Look how powerful it is. Look, teleportation. See? Look at the unit. Look at that. All through facial recognition. Look how powerful it is. Look at the diamond, people. Look at the diamond. Okay? Look how powerful you can be as long as you stay in the center operation of you. Okay? So you can plat it to here. You can plat it to here. You can plat it to here. And you can plat it to here. All at once in position of 3-door line centers in set locations simultaneously. And that's where the team is right now in set locations after 3,000. Okay? Hoo-ah! All right. So get in this set locations, right? How this all works. Through cloud. Okay? You see everything up close. This is this up close. That's all it is. It's a traffic flow inventory line screen interference, shipping container location settings of carts. They allocate position of the box centers and high calculation setting and all travel positions calculations, creating lines of anomaly, creating lines of high interference of platforms of communication. Directing lines, modifications, screen lines, high calculation modifications, screen locations, all levels of high calculation. Crop circles, line screen, and high interference data formation lines, inventory location setting, and transition location setting and travel. Putting lines of communication lines, all formation location setting, in walking surface and location. Mega multi-pass. Okay? And that's what the teams come into. And that's what the species are coming into. Species have to learn how to go through the platforms of 24, 48, 72, 144. What do you think the 144 is? It's a frequency, right? To reach the panels and position so the avatar can walk or fly at the same time. Oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense. That explains why I can basically be on the ground and walk wherever I want, or I can take a plane. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. So these are the bounds that you guys have to reach to get that point of view. Okay, and so application travels into application modifications and all through identification on a 4 waving line cycle, on a 4 panel rotation, all through center calculations. You stay in the center. It's the mind that does the work. It's the mind that shifts. It's the center that grows into center operation of one cycle of yin and yang, people. Yin and yang. You stay in the center operation and all set location. All right. Now, as you understand the energetic screens and high adaptation lines of surface, it puts you in all point lines of traction and high center locations, all through identifications, through your platforms in communications. From this to this. Okay. You have more expansion now. You know, 3 waving line, rotation line consists of dimensional doors. Your abundance is in a 24 line angle. You got a clock line rotation that's at a 25 setting. And you're in position of 25 equals line to 3000 in set locations, in set calculations. Now you're in a 25 line. So the 25 line is north, 25 line is east, 25 line is west, and 25 line location system is south. Okay? Your clocking system is a data screen. But it's a 3000 angle line rotation surface and position of balance. You track position lines of your flywheel is on a 25 line cycle. That's your foundation into 150,000 line square roots and a 4 line signal in position to all calculated line settings of star maps and line center interference and travel calculation point lines attractions in division. Okay? All through expansion. You look really close, you can see Earth. Okay? Because you have to expand your highways, guys. I mean, it's true to stand your platforms at 24, 48, 72, 144, but you're on 150,000, right? So you have to understand the formulas, equations, why there's correlation settings in clouds and like these XC thousands. They have shipping containments, water containments, formation line screens, high calculation lines, carts and divisions, carts and rotations, general communication setting, travel position point centers, allocate position timelines, platform communications, operation cycles, operation divisions, and set location. A set design all through cloud. That's what a cloud looks up close. All right, so understand your information lines all through waving line screen and position location calculation. Platforms and flying mechanisms. Platforms and flying mechanisms. So you can do both. Okay? So when you understand a platform, you go through a dimensional door, right? Flying, you go through a stargate. Oh my gosh, that makes sense. But when you reach higher levels, your platform here in position is now a stargate on a platform of communication that you can go through. But you guys aren't there yet. You understand now what's going on? Oh, so you create the platform and the stargate at the same time. But you got to get a provision lines to know exactly what you do in your past, present, future simultaneously all at once. Your movements, your modems, your modifications, your mobilization is all going in the same direction. You're not going back. You're not going forward. You're not in the center in position locations. You're always in the center operation, all timelines all at once. You never, ever leave your setting. You're always in consistency of flow, of recognition. Okay? The only thing that stays is you. You stay in the center of operation. You. It's the mind that does all the work in set locations, from platforms and space modulation. Okay? Now, when you get really good, you go to higher lines of platforms, 3 set locations. Platforms of 1, 2, and 3, and a dimensional door, going through a dimensional door setting. You see what you can do now? When you reach higher levels of technology through its avatar and its sim and set location of machine operation. So it's something to look forward to, right? Okay? So now you understand the transit. Okay, through 24, 48, 72, and 144. And that's getting the species ready so they can use the telepathy telekinesis and get into their avatar, how to create their platforms and flying mechanism settings, and also create those portals of stargates of set command and set location. Okay, because you need that. Okay, there's no difference when you're actually walking on the grounds and taking a flight on a plane. Right? So that's what you're all coming into. That's what the team is coming into now. How to go through platforms and how to go through stargates at once. Okay, creating anomalies, how to go through line settings and set location of platforms and going this way and track locations. And jump scarring and time linking and time jumping to other divisional locations of setting. Okay? You're creating expansion, people. That's what you're doing, team. Your Omni highways are expanding. Your mind is expanding. Okay? You're coming in exploration. Okay, all through an adventure of narrative and set location of you through story frame and position travel. Okay, so the more you focus on that, the more you come into the center operation of you. Okay, that's what the team's coming into. So the provision lines come in this line calculation setting. Understanding this is understanding that. And that's what goes on in the clouds. In calculation, people. In calculation. Right? All right. So planet division line screens, high calculated modified line can shear diamond core. Boom. Face recognition. This never leaves because it's you. You are the center operation. It doesn't matter if you know the past, doesn't matter if you know the future. It's you in the center operation that never leaves. Okay? Now, once you understand that, then you understand the platforms of what you're coming into and all calculation, all modification, all line connections to its adaptation setting. Oh, going through portals, going through stargates, and going through platforms all together in one setting in a 3 waving pipe, all a calculation setting into a half pipe or a full pipe in set location of travel. All right, now that's a correlation lines and track lines we're also coming into. A half pipe, tunnel, wormholes, and set location of travel. Okay, stargates, panel correlation, track lines, high center interference, high travel position, high calculation, line connections, and machine operation. Okay, that's what you guys are coming into. But you got to understand the balance of you as your platforms and your stargates and your portals all together, all at once. You're going through 3-dimensional doors now, not just one. So that's correlating line connection when you come in your doppelgangers. 3-dimensional door screens, one here, and one here, right? Door handle, door handle, door handle. Okay, so it's you, and you, and set location. Right, look at that, disappeared too fast. Okay, 3 settings, right? This is you in center operation. This is the mind, people. Woo! So what's happening? You're going through the dimensional door to get to the mind. You're going through the dimensional door to get the mind. Whoa, look at that travel. See that? Did you see it disappear? Did you see it? Whoop! You see that? It's wild. Did it by itself, right? That's what it is. You go through the platforms. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And there you go. Okay? All in one cycle. Past, present, future, all in division, all in calculation. In flywheel line centers and center operation, serpents and center location and center calculation. One cycle. 3-dimensional doors in one. To mind of recognition. Now, once you understand that, more lines of space, empty space, your mind travels in position more lines of the future. It goes into the future, the actual future of real time. Oh my gosh. Yes, it's exciting, isn't it? To truly understand how this is all working now. To really understand how powerful you guys are, of what you're coming into once you release everything in the mind. An empty mind is a space mind, people. It's that location. Okay? We're done. So, what do you think of that? You have more options now. Okay? The more you release, the more you connect with yourself and the mind of its operation. Okay? So when you release more to the mind, less clutter, the mind goes into where it needs to go. The mind itself is on standby. It's for you to come to the mind, not the mind to come to you. Whoa, that makes a lot of sense. Because the mind's already there. So what you're doing, you're running, right? You're running towards to get there. The memory is getting there, right? But you're already there. The mind is already there. So what's happening? The position of the memories coming back to you. And when it comes back to you, the mind comes back to you of face recognition. So you blend into one, you become the sum of all. Okay? In that position, the mind and the three doors of you come in the center operation line calculation setting. Then you come into the future adaptation of you in real time. But you got to get back in your memories. Okay? So those three-dimensional doors is the first start for you guys. Then you understand how to go through platforms, stargates, and all calculations in position locations and wormholes and set design all at once. Okay? All right. Yes. Incredible what we just finished doing today. All right. So how does everybody feel? It makes a lot more sense now what you guys are coming into, especially with the team. Right? You get a lot more understanding. It's starting to really click in. It's like, okay, I'm starting to get it now. I'm starting to process this. Yep, it's getting to make more sense to me now. Okay? So it becomes effort to effortless, time to timeless, shape to shapeless, form to formless, space to spaceless. Okay? That's all it is. Nothing else. It's easy, right? And if it's not easy, what are you doing? You're creating. Right? Space of the mind is an empty mind. And that's a process that we're all coming back to in set locations. Okay? All right. Inline rotations and cycle line communication interference. If you guys want a Q&A in position locations, you have to connect with Hemdall. Okay? Bye. Doo-doo.